biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Paddy Daly.
Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you so much for tuning into the program. It's Thursday, August the 28th. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly. Beth Fagan is back in the producer's chair. You'll be speaking with Beth when you pick up the phone to give us a call to get in the queue to get on the air. If you're in the St. John's metro region, the number to dial is 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 86-26. So for tennis fans, all three men on the Canadian side are in the singles event today at the U.S. Open. So that's Diallo, Shapovalov, and Auger-Aliassime. I'm going to try to take in at least a little bit of it. All right, so now that the Canada Games have come and gone, by all accounts, they were a pretty big success, given some of the issues that the organizing committee had to deal with, of course, wildfires and otherwise. So people think that we should be talking about the competitive nature of our athletes and our teams. You know, I hear Danny Breen and Dan Babbitt, the mayors of St. John's and Paradise, talking about the venue legacy. It can be important. Some people kind of scoff at it, but when we now have more internationally and nationally certified venues, here comes the concept and the potential for more sports tourism. Because I'm sure hospitality operators don't care why you're here as long as you're here. So if we can bring in different types of events on the national stage or the international stage because now we have the venue, that's probably a very good thing, don't you think? Insofar as, you know, nurturing our young athletes, you know, some are just in it for the fun, best kind. Some are in it to be competitive and would be in the ranks of so-called elite athletes. For us, venues is one thing, and it's important. But between coaching and, most importantly, competition to get you to the next level, where you can't stick your nose in it on the national front to have a shot at some prizes and some medals. Anyway, you want to take it on, we can do it. Oh, quickly in the world of sports memorabilia, I remember back in 2022, a 1952 Mickey Mantle baseball card sold for $12.6 million at auction. At that time, the most expensive piece of sports memorabilia. Hold my beer. 2025, you'll remember that there was a game-worn 1932 World Series Babe Ruth jersey sold for $24 million plus. Again, hold my beer. The ruby slippers of Dorothy Gale, played by Judy Garland in The Wizard of Oz, went for $28 million. Some people, man, whoa. I get into important stuff. So particularly good news for the Kingston fire. So it was long burning out of control. Now it's been deemed to being held. So it remains at 10,095 hectares in size. But when you hear from Provincial Fire Duty Officer Jeff Matty, the work on the north and west edges of the fire has gone well. So obviously fire within the perimeter, but no, the containment seems to be working. All right. People will talk about returning home. For instance, Northern Bay, one side of the bay, one side of the community is back. People are back in there. The other side, not yet, as the fire rages on. So let's talk about, and especially if you're someone who's gotten back into your community, about what you've seen and where to next. There were some announcements yesterday regarding some additional supports. The government is going to provide $500 to primary households forced to evacuate for more than 14 days, in addition to the $500 payment. What else have we got here? Evacuees staying in private accommodations with friends, family, or other community members are eligible for $1,000 per household per month. Evacuees staying in rental accommodations are eligible for up to $1,500 per household per month. Slightly confused with this bit. If someone can't find any private or rental accommodations, the Newfoundland and Labrador Housing Corporation will help them find accommodation at a licensed hospitality establishment. I suppose that means B&B, an Airbnb, or hotel or a motel or an inn. The province is going to provide a one-time stipend of $1,500 to businesses with 2 to 9 employees and $2,500 to businesses with 10 to 99 employees. All right. CBN-based business or businesses that employ people from the region are also able to receive up to 42 weeks of wage subsidies. Support program allocations increase from $1,000 to $2,000 per employee. It also pertains to self-employed individuals. All right, so some, I think, increases that will be welcome. Whether or not that goes far enough, I'll leave that up to the individual listener. But anyone impacted by the fires directly, more than welcome to join us on this program. They also refer to the fact that some 35 volunteer fire departments fought these fires in August. So still waiting to hear what that means for compensation for these firefighters and their brave efforts. So be nice to have some information on that front. And also, CBS man charged and fined for breaking the fire ban. First offense, $50,000. And, of course, For the vast majority of people, now this fellow might be able to stroke a check for $50,000. I have no idea. But $50,000 are straight to jail. The number one pushback I hear all the time is that people are just not going to pay the fine. You're probably right. Which is why the government really does need to proceed with the plan they spoke about for folks who owe money, whether it be in violation of the Highway Traffic Act or contraband tobacco or whatever it is. Because we hear the stories all the time. There are millions and millions of dollars of unpaid fines out there. If the thought was community service, I know there's going to be some liabilities and some logistics that have to get worked out here, but that sounds like a really good idea to me. What do you think? All right. Back to school, soon be. All right, so there's a lot going on, obviously. A couple of listeners have sent me very similar emails, and it's about after-school programs and transportation. So they've made many requests to the government all the way back to May of 2024. No permanent bus solution has been provided. So here's some of the concerns. Kids under 10 expected to go home alone. Unused seats on buses while real needs go unmet. Outdated systems that don't reflect modern family life. Parents forced to consider daily taxis or Uber for children. So they're talking about a dedicated bus route between schools and after-school centres. Letting daycare submit rider lists annually. No more last-minute seat requests. Updating NL's bus planning tool to reflect after-school care needs. So I told them I'd put that out there for them, and we will. We did. We also were told the other day that the province is adding some 527 additional regulated child care spaces. Then it's followed by this number. There's 9,152 children on a wait list to get child care. So, all right, there's a couple of caveats that need to be added here. There is potential for those who are kept on the wait list while the family is still looking for more suitable care locations. So they may indeed have it, but they're staying on the list to maybe get a child care opportunity or option closer to where they live. Also, maybe some families have found child care, early childhood education, but haven't taken their name off the list. Regardless, if it's 9,132 or 8,132 or 52, that's still a lot. So $10 a day daycare was always a very good idea. But accessibility has to be coupled with affordability in and around the same time. I'm not suggesting it's easy, but that's still a huge number of families that are waiting. Your thoughts on it? We can talk about it. All right. As I heard Sarah Strickland say, the flurry of announcements. Look, it's just a matter of time now before they call an election. By legislation, the latest they can wait is September the 16th to allow for 28 days of a campaign. So you got a funny feeling it's coming sooner than later. So there's going to be the Education Accord released this morning. Looking forward to having a look at that, the 10-year roadmap to change, to modernize the K-12 system in this province. You've heard me talk about it repeatedly. Even if we just focus in on the academics of it, even though everything has some direct link or indirect link, whether it be violence in schools or chronic absenteeism, but academic outcomes have been on a downward trend since 2003. People will take on learning loss during the pandemic and the hybrid system, and we're open and we're not. And we haven't really done much in this province, I don't think, to capture a full understanding of the learning loss through the pandemic. But academic outcomes are nowhere near where they need to be for our long-term viability, our long-term success and prosperity. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from Drs. Goodnow and Burke. Maybe we'll try to get them on the program next week. Also, an update coming today on status progress for or inside the Health Accord. So, again, we all feel the same way. It's just a matter of days now, I assume, until they will call the election. But those two important documents, the Education Accord, Health Accord, will get an update today. All right. In the form of good news. So the province has now decided to move forward with a plan, albeit a pilot project, for nurse practitioners to no longer have to charge people cash on the barrelhead if they're operating in a private clinic. They'll simply bill MCP. All right, so it's going to be some 20 nurse practitioners that will be able to avail of this. Inside the statement, it says the funding will also cover access to electronic medical records. Okay, it's about $2 million pilot project. Equipment, clinic space, supplies, administrative support for 1,950 hours of service per year, including 1,660 hours of direct patient care. All right. So it'd be great to have someone from the Nurse Practitioner Association on, Jessica Peddle in particular. If you're listening, Jessica, I'd love to have you on the program. This is good news and a step in the right direction. But my question will be, now that we know that this has been modeled along some other provinces' approach to this, Why exactly is it simply a pilot? Is it to ensure that the model is going to work for both the patient and the nurse practitioner and the government? But if we know that it's working in a certain form or fashion elsewhere, it would be helpful to know that the pilot to last about a year will be closely followed while they have a chance to work things out, closely followed with nurse practitioners in the same billing model as this pilot would represent. So good news, good step in the right direction. But I still wonder why it's still only a pilot at this moment in time. Like Jessica Peddle has spoken quite pleased about this. Same thing with the Registered Nurses Union. And for me and you, normal Joes and Janes and Johns, it's simply about access to primary care. And what it might mean for backlogs, what it might mean for people who don't have a family doctor, what it might mean for loosening up some of the stress in the province's emergency rooms. So pleased to hear that announcement, and I welcome your thoughts on it. Also, in the air of trying to speak to some of the email questions and concerns I get, this is another one. We still await the province to implement the recommendations and deal with the issues broached by the Auditor General and her team. All right, Denise Hanran has done excellent work, in my personal opinion. Personal care homes, let's go. The operational standards need to be updated. We know there are well-documented concerns inside personal care homes. And I think, using the Personal Care Homes Association's own words, they're happy to have compliance issues publicly disclosed so that we can keep track of when something is identified and the progress towards rectifying it. And that could be anything from, a broken doorknob to the inappropriate or incorrect administration of medication, of which we have documentation on that front. This one is not the same conversation necessarily, but I'll leave the facilities out, but they're referring to them as retirement homes. This person, who is a loved one of a resident in one particular retirement home, says that there was someone working there that was caught stealing narcotics. It's a serious offense, but at the same time, the police were not called, no investigation, no charges, and the person was simply able to leave the job. Then move on to another retirement home, get caught doing the exact same thing. No reports were filed, quietly dismissed, and consequently able to take on this job elsewhere. I don't know why a retirement home operator wouldn't recognize the serious nature of stealing narcotics and act on it as they should. Get the police involved. That's exactly who should be called when someone's caught doing something like that. So people in retirement homes, and some of them might be absolutely robust and hardy and handy and able to fend for themselves, but we also have some very vulnerable people living in these settings. So if this can be what is referred to as a systemic failure and or maybe just negligence, incompetence, and simply a criminal act, let's make sure that in these homes, in these settings, if and when things like that happen, let's get at it. All right, keep going. So the Upper Churchill Memorandum of Understanding, plenty of conversation on it yesterday, and that's a good thing. For starters, asking questions is critically important. This will be, on the pathway to definitive agreements, one of the most important documents that the province will ever sign, much akin to the Atlantic Accord. And we're happy to take it on here today. There has been a letter penned, an open letter released yesterday to the province, and that comes both to the government and for the members of Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro, executive level, and the board of directors. Let's get into it a little bit. And they're asking questions. I think it's a good thing. And all the signatories are welcome to call. They include Bert Coffey, former clerk of the Executive Council, Chess Crosby, Jack Harris, Rolly Martin, Deputy Minister of Finance in the past, longest-serving director at NL Hydro, Bob Noseworthy, former president of Pennacon, Roger Simmons, former federal cabinet minister, Walter Tucker, former senior vice president at SNC Lavalin, Lauren Wheeler, former deputy minister, policy advisor, and former premier Danny Williams. They're saying that and this is only the form of asking questions about the questions being asked. So they refer to it as a very one-sided contract, call it the biggest strategic error in the history of the province. And let's dig into a couple of items. So, number one, they're saying that if the board at Hydro does not put a thumbs down to it, that's not how it's written, but that's the essence of it, is that they should resign. Okay, but ultimately, it's going to be a political decision, isn't it? The Premier and Cabinet will decide whether or not this goes any further. They talk about negotiations continue. What's being negotiated? Because if we have like the three-person oversight panel is only allowed to conduct oversight to what's contained in the MOU. So negotiating what in particular? It'd be nice to know, even if it's just the broad strokes of what's being negotiated. They're talking about handing a monopoly of the Churchill River power over to Hydro-Quebec, basically because Hydro-Quebec has the full authority and control as to whether or not to develop Gull. Okay, so electricity demand has never been greater. No question. They'll talk about lopsided benefits at the current structure of the Upper Churchill contract. So just a couple of questions, and any of the signatories or anybody, the general public, absolutely free to call. I think history has been pretty clear, and this is not a thumbs up, thumbs down to the MOU. This is just looking back. The province of Quebec and Hydro-Quebec have been loath to reopen the 1969 contract with the Upper Churchill. How do I know that? Because we went to court repeatedly to try to get exactly that done. Lost every single time. I think that tallies 7 times in court. Then they talk about the last remaining, one of the best hydro projects in the country, and maybe the world, is at Gull Island. It's probably true. How do we develop Gull? Do people in the province want to take on a mega project without partners or without secure market? Because the biggest problem with Muskrat not only was the obliteration of the budget and the schedule, is that we're the customer. We're the only customer. You know, we've got power that we owe to Emera, Nova Scotia Power, because of the maritime link, but we're the customer. So how do we get Gull developed without a partner? And who that partner might be, I'll leave it up to you, Fortis or whoever under the sun. But on top of that, the only way Gull ever gets developed is if there's some way to get the power out. Muskrat Falls is as much a transmission project as it is a power generating dam. So who and where do we go to talk about getting the 2,225 megawatts of Gull Island power to market, wherever that market might be? Ontario, Quebec, the northeastern United States, whoever, wherever. So there are good questions being asked, but I would love to speak with any of the signatories, or of course you as our regular listeners and callers, about exactly how we think about those particular issues. So anyway, it's a big deal. We should be talking about it more than we have been in the past. Yesterday, some calls on it, which I really appreciate. And so that letter is out there for your consideration. You want to take it on, we can do it. On that front, and this was always going to be the case, I'm not so sure how it's being reported as some sort of earth-shattering news, but launching this week, and this comes from National Resources Minister Tim Hodson. When the legislation was passed regarding major projects, shovel-ready projects, nation-building projects, via the legislation, there was always going to be the need to open up a major projects office. Okay, so we're going to need to know exactly what's being considered as it pertains to this province. And apparently in a couple of weeks, we're going to find out the first major projects that will be selected by that office. They're talking about some of the pitches that have been made abroad, and these are not new. When we talk about Germany and hydrogen, people in this province know all too well about that particular approach that's been taken. Also talking about liquefied natural gas. Man, the gas conversation in this country is contentious. And there was absolutely ridiculous comments offered by former Prime Minister Trudeau, talking about there's no business case. It's not really the government's business to talk about whether or not there's a business case. Private sector companies come up with an idea, look for markets, present a business case, and we go through the regulatory approval process like we do with everything else. So now we're actually talking about LNG apparently into Germany. All right. And of course, there's only one natural gas distribution hub, and that would be, of course, Kitimat in BC on the other coast. So access to the European market, you would think there's going to have to be some move afoot on that front. So major projects. What does that mean for us? You know, I think the first one that people will point to is whether or not there's some opportunity for the federal government to pay the monies in Article 82 in the United Nations law that says outside of our economic protective zone, royalties need to be paid to developing nations. The country signed on, the province did not. So maybe there's something there. Does it pertain to the fixed link? It's not my words, it's the federal government's words. They have called it a nation-building project. How do I know? Because I said it repeatedly. It was in mandate letters to successive ministers. It's been put into the hands of the Canada Infrastructure Bank. So is that something? Can it be categorized as shovel-ready? I'll leave it up to you. Then people will talk about how it might relate to this Upper Churchill business. Oh, one other part of the letter that I really should have brought forward is one of the complexities for me is the fact that there's 4 major projects all in that one document, which will end up being 10 or 12 contracts, if and when that happens. So they're talking about unbundling. Hydro-Quebec has never been willing to deal with the Upper Churchill on a standalone basis, but they're not wrong. When you include expansion of the Upper Churchill, and yes, the quadrupling of the Labrador Power Recall Block, and then it's Gull, and then, of course, there's 2 major transmission projects as well. We have risk on some and not on the others. So how do we unbundle it if Hydro-Quebec doesn't want to just deal with the Upper Churchill on a standalone basis? Not because I'm just guessing they don't, because, again, we've been in court many, many, many times. It's like beating our head against the wall. We lost every single time. And, of course, resolutions will no longer be held in the province of Quebec or courtrooms in the province of Quebec. It'll be in Ontario, just so that there's not that home field advantage for the Quebec government and or Hydro-Quebec. We're on Twitter. Or VOCM Open Line. Follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com. When we come back, let's have a great show. Donovan's in the queue to talk about a quarry out in Port Saunders. Junior wants to talk about the fires, and Tom gives us a water update out in Kilbride. Don't go away.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Bigland FM radio network.
Welcome back to the program. Let's begin this morning on the top of the board, line number 1. Good morning, Donovan. You're on the air.
How are you?
Doing okay. How about you?
I'm not too bad. I'm a local fisherman from Port Saunders, and there's a quarry that is planning on starting here in May of 2026. With the quarry that's going to be starting over here, I'm thinking that it's going to be casting a dark shadow over our cherished local fishery.
How so?
With the blasting and extraction processes, it's going to be generating sediment and pollutants that will contaminate our waters.
What's the proximity of the quarry to the ocean?
The quarry is probably pretty close, right next to the ocean, because they got a loading dock and everything there that they are building to put barges and everything into that wharf for loading and everything. I think it consists of a 70-odd acres from down by the waterfront back.
So have you put these concerns either, say, through the FFAW or the Department of Environment or the Department of Fisheries to get some reaction from officials?
I've been talking to other local fishermen, and I think they feel the same way that I do with it, because even though, it might be bringing in other jobs for other people that are not fishermen, it's just not it's just not an environmental concern that is leading to me. It's a direct assault on the livelihoods of our fishermen.
I don't know a whole lot. So would the concern with blasts be things like vibrations and underwater noise? And I don't know what the toxicity you're referring to, that's residue from explosives, I assume, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Because, our fishery haven't been that good here now, and our fishery is just starting to come back, for lobsters and everything. We've been doing pretty good here the last couple of years, and now they're planning on putting this quarry in here in Port Saunders. And what's going to happen when they start blasting and everything, with the underwater vibration and everything, is all going to drive the lobsters clear of here instead of bringing them in here.
Yeah. Any idea how long blasting would... Are you talking about the initial blasting to get the quarry open or the ongoing blast explosions into the future?
The ongoing. It's going to be starting, I think, in May 2026 to start getting it open. And that's once a week. They'll be blasting at the same time that we're fishing.
I understand. So do you happen to know, Donovan, if there was an environmental impact assessment done? If there was, I'm just going to try to find it, if you happen to know.
I'm not sure. I think there is something done on the government in Newfoundland and Labrador about it. They talk all about it, right?
Okay.
But, I got to worry about my livelihood here, the same thing as the rest of us do. Our livelihood is in jeopardy if they take, say, the blasting and starts driving our fish away. How are we supposed to make a livelihood? at the end of the day, is really not helping the community because we rely on the fishery.
I understand where you're coming from. So I wonder how far out into the ocean we'll see underwater noise or vibrations impact all marine life, whether it be blasting fish's bladders and or scurrying off the lobsters. I really don't know, but now that you brought it up, I'll see if I can find the environmental impact assessment or statement and see what that says and go from there.
Yep.
I appreciate you letting me know about it. This is the first I heard of it, to be honest, Donovan.
Yeah, because our fishermen have depended on these waters for generations.
Yeah.
And now they're gonna put this quarry in here, and it's they don't care about the fishermen. All he cares about is finding that I can't even remember what they're going digging, mining for, over in that quarry. It's just, they just don't care. Here in Port Saunders, we got oil in the cost from us here. We call it middle arm. And with the way they got it AI generated, it looks exactly as if you can look out over from up on the main highway here and see exactly where they're going to have a pot. And you'll be able to see the opening.
I just popped up something, some more information to see about it. 176-hectare rock quarry, approximately 1.5 kilometers south of the town of Port Saunders. The project would include 1.7-kilometer access road, lay-down stockpile area, marine facility for the export of aggregate to international markets. So now that I have captured some of this information, I will inform myself a little bit better about it, about who the proponents are, what they're going for, how it relates to the environment on land and on the water or in the water. So now that I have it in front of me, give me a chance to go through it a little bit, and we'll talk about it on the show again, Donovan. How's that?
No problem. With this, it's not, our fishing is more than an occupation. It's a way of life here.
Yeah, no argument there.
And people don't understand that.
I don't know if they understand it or not. It's whether or not they're giving it regard when we talk about this proposed quarry and what it might mean for marine life and consequently what it might mean for commercial fish harvesters. I will dig into this a little bit further, Donovan, and when I have some information that I can speak to with any type of authority, I'll do exactly that.
All right, sounds good.
I appreciate your time. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
A friendly reminder, doesn't matter if I bring it up. If it's important to you, let's talk about it. And this is one that I think it was in the news yesterday and today that I did see and I did read, but I didn't bring it up off the top. And let's just throw it out there. Artificial intelligence is everywhere. I mean, we might not see it and recognize it as being such, but it is absolutely everywhere and has direct implications on our day-to-day life. Whether or not you realize it, it does. It can be extremely helpful when we talk about healthcare and other factors in industry. But how it's used by the world's youth is still something that I don't think we've fully wrapped our minds around. Whether it be sort of creating the absence of critical thinking. And the reports are coming out. We did indeed talk about the Media Lab at MIT. They had 3 control groups, one using artificial intelligence like ChatGPT, generated a model, then another group just using Google, and another group simply using their own minds and their own research to write an SAT letter. Distinct outcomes, distinctly different. And the folks using ChatGPT, not only was the product inferior, but they couldn't remember what had been produced, and there was a variety of concerns. This one here, and it's hard to know how to say these things, but there's a lawsuit that's been brought forward by parents of a young fellow named Adam Rain, 16 years of age, died on April 11th, died by suicide. He had been going back and forth for months with ChatGPT about his suicidal ideations. So they are now suing him. So they're using artificial general intelligence. That refers to computers that possess consciousness, much like humans. So it's a massive step beyond just normal artificial intelligence. So here's what was going on. The chatbot was validating Adam's suicidal thoughts, giving detailed information on lethal methods of harm. instructed him how to hide his actions from his parents and hide evidence of failed suicide attempts. ChatGPT even offered to draft a suicide note. So, look, kids are going to use it. They are, whether it be to do their schoolwork or for just normal interaction that they might have had with their friends, and now will choose to have it with these artificial general intelligence. It is pretty brutal. OpenAI spokesperson said that they're saddened by Reign's passing, and they said ChatGPT includes safeguards like directing people to crisis helplines. They say, while these safeguards work best in common short exchanges, we've learned over time that they can sometimes become less reliable in long interaction where the parts of the model's safety training may degrade. So, again, for me, I don't know much about it, but I do know that as a parent, asking and talking with my kids about how they may indeed be using it, whether it be to replace their own hard work and effort in school and or for things like chatbots. So it's a pretty difficult story to talk about, but someone asked me why I didn't bring it up, because I have been talking about AI. So there we go. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're speaking with you.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go line number 4. Verna, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty.
Hiya.
How you doing?
I'm okay, Verna. How about you?
It'd be better if the boat situation was better, but the Legionnaire is out on sea trials. Now, when she'll be back, we don't know. Announcement hasn't been made. I've seen there's been a little bit of paint put on the outside of it, which is good. But on a sadder note, we have crewing issues now on the boat, so the boat cannot run.
What are the crewing issues?
We're not sure. 9 chances out of 10, it's probably got to do with management who has no form of having to have accountability, communications, HR, or PR. You can't run anything if you don't have them 4 elements. And sadly, we can see as the people, the public, how much we are not getting from this department. We protested in 2021, which Mr. Lovelace was at that time the department manager. And again, he's the department manager now. The only thing has changed from then to now is we were PCs. Now we're liberals. And we're not being treated any better. When Mr. Hutton first came in, we had communication. We were for once being heard. But ever since Mr. Lovelace has taken over from Mr. Hutton, because Mr. Hutton was also the department manager for the transportation infrastructure, and now everything that we worked so hard for has gone backwards. Because Mr. Lovelace has the final decision, the final say in everything that goes on with the boat. But the ferry services, rather. A prime example is, you recall just not long ago when Fogo and we had the incident with the ferry being down and said that they would probably have to send the Astron here. And Mr. Lovelace got on and said it was their entitlement, their rights to protest that, because that was their second ferry. It is not. That is the swing vessel. The Astron is the swing vessel. We got it in writing from Mr. Dutton. And this is information, like it's competing one against the other, islands against the other, and it's not right. There's no accountability for this department. And last week we had 3 days that crewing issues. So they didn't have enough crew to do the first trip at 5 o'clock. So the boat did not start till 6 o'clock. That notification came in the morning at 4:30 for the people.
Quick question for you, Verna. So, what constitutes being treated fair, and how is the ferry system ever going to be managed that doesn't end up feeling like or sounding like pitting one community versus another?
The thing is, Patty, in my opinion, we have to take care of the management first, because you need accountability. Okay, you're going to work, and if somebody calls in sick, isn't there a plan in place so somebody takes your place?
Not
Isn't
really.
management doing their job? No, but like I said, isn't yeah, but okay, let's put it essential service. Wouldn't you think it would be in place?
I'm not disputing your point. I asked a question that really doesn't have anything to do with that. Let's just say all the management in the Marine Fleet Services are gone today and replaced tomorrow with new, fresh eyes, with a better communication strategy. How could the system, regardless of who's managing it, not end up feeling like and sounding like pitting one community against another? Because that's what happens. Regardless if people want to feel that way, whether it be with the larger vessels and Fogo Island and Bell Island. So how do we...
No. Because, Patty, the thing is, the reason they're competing against the other is because the government is doing it. Not the people of these communities. It's the government who's competing one against the other.
Okay,
that is the difference. And like I said, again, lack of communication, miscommunication. Fogo was told that was their second ferry. We were told that the Astron is a swing vessel. There's a prime example of lack of communication, miscommunication.
I can't dispute that point, but ultimately there's a finite number of vessels, period. Right?
Yes. Oh, 100%. And that is because of neglect of them not doing their jobs on the recommendations and the studies that they have done that going forward what they should be doing. And if you're sitting on your hands doing nothing, what's going to get done? And this is the sad part of this last 10 years that the Liberals have been in, that there's been too much sitting on your hands and not enough pens in hands, phones in hands, communications taking place to get this so that these problems don't take place.
Well, I mean, when government does a poor job communicating, which is more often than not, and not just this government, successive governments right across the country, including the federal government. So I can't argue that point because I agree with it in full.
Yeah, and it's pointing the fingers, Patty. You got to stop pointing the fingers at gone by. Well, it's because of this is here. Because of this, stop pointing the fingers and stop bullying. Stop telling workers, and like I say, I don't know what the crewing issues are, but if we're not being told anything and we're being treated like we are not important enough to have an essential service, how are these workers feeling? I understand there's people that have been working 60-plus days to take up the slack of whatever is going on. I don't know if people are being reprimanded or they don't have enough crew there or what is going on, or people are just fed up with the management that they do have. And I mean, you're only as good as your management. And if you're if you're treated like crap, don't you feel like crap?
Yeah. And
they can't open their mouth because, and I mean, to get their unions behind them, it takes time. And in regards to, this year was going on for the last week that we couldn't get the boats out, wouldn't you have a meeting ASAP with these unions to say, let's get this fixed because can't happen. We got to do whatever it takes and fix this problem. But it's going on and on and on. This morning we had it again. And the people of Bell Island cannot get to work on time. So what's going to happen? These people are going to lose their jobs. They're going to be on welfare, going to be on EI for a year. It's not fair to the people of Bell Island. It's not fair to anybody anywhere. And if the 9 chances out of 10, if right now they got crewing issues here, pretty soon they're going to have the other communities because a lot of the times they send them off to other places.
Yeah, I do have to get going, but what I will say is I'll get out in front of the emails that are going to flow in saying, well, just tell Verna to move. Okay, easy enough for someone to say who doesn't live on Bell Island, but I'll also add, move where? I mean, if we're talking about moving to the city, there's nowhere to live. I mean, it's as simple as that. There's very little out there to buy. Vacancy rate in and around St. John's is less than 1%. So while you're going to write me an email saying people on these islands need to move, then do me a favor, in the email, suggest where they can move. I mean, if we're talking about Bell Island, if you're talking about St. Brendan's or Fogo or somewhere not around the Northeast Avalon, then it's a different conversation. But anyway, Verna, I got to get going. I understand your frustration.
Thank you, and you have a great day, Patty.
You too. All the best. All right. Bye-bye. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the forest fires and get a water update from Tom, and then whatever you want to talk about. Don't go away.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Bigland FM radio network.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Junior, you're on the air.
Hello, Patty.
Hi there. Junior?
Sorry, Patty, I had to shut off the side-by-side.
Okay.
Okay, so happy Thursday to Patrick and Beth today, by the way.
Thanks a lot. Same to you.
Good. I'm calling now, Patty. I'm trying to find out. There was a forest fire in central Newfoundland area on Monday. Now, nobody knows about it. The Premier didn't say anything about it. And whether he knew about it or not, I don't know. But to the best of my knowledge, there was a forest fire in the West Lake area, and there was helicopters employed to look at it. And it was put out, I'd say, by the torrential rains that we had on Monday night.
Yeah, I thought I heard the Premier make reference to it. They called it a small fire, maybe approximately 1 hectare in size, and was put out. Didn't I hear him say that?
Yes, and if you did, that's perfect, because I did not hear it, Patty.
Okay.
On the update on Monday, so that's good. The fire was put out. But, Patty, I also heard this morning that there was a man, he could be charged $50,000 for having a fire in his backyard. Yep. So this fire was caused by heavy machinery in this area by a woods contractor, to the best of my knowledge. And the fire ban was on. So has he been reported, and is he going to get a $50,000 fine?
I have no way of knowing. Just a quick note of clarification regarding the fellow yesterday from CBS who has been charged. I don't know if it was in his backyard or not. They talk about it in the area of Pond Road in Kelligrew, so I don't know if that was alongside the pond or in his backyard. I really don't know, but he did indeed set an open fire and was fined $50,000.
And the fire ban is on, right?
Yeah, it's in place until September the 7th.
Okay, so these operators, these contractors, they've been cutting while the fire ban is on. Extremely high temperatures, forces like a tinderbox. And they've been up cutting wood with hot exhaust, chains on, cotton sparks. And we were told, as citizens of Newfoundland, not to go on our roads, not to use our side-by-sides or our ATVs, even if we're going to our cabin on roads that are passable by 2 wood trucks. So basically, we were told not to do it, but still they're allowed to cut.
Plenty of commercial operations got shut down, Junior.
Yeah, they did get shut down, Patty, but fire ban's still on, and they're still up there now cutting. So, is there a difference between us and them?
Don't know. But, I mean, if anyone is concerned about any of this type of activity, there's people you can contact. Primarily, well, starters, I mean, if you think it's a law enforcement issue, fine. But even just the fundamental email of forestfires2025@gov.nl.ca, if people want to offer support or equipment or whatever the case may be, and or to report something that you think should be understood by the government, I would do that. Now, I'm not suggesting, everyone needs to become some sort of fink, but if you have a concern regarding forest fires and operations, I'd do both of what I just mentioned.
And I did, Patty, and I couldn't find anything on that West Lake fire, so that's why I'm calling to make sure there was one, make sure it was put out. So that's what I call for, Patty, just to see if they're under the same constrictions that the people of Newfoundland were put under. And if not, then they should be, because like I said, that's heavy machinery working in the forest, and the fire was in the forest, so it's basically a forest fire. And, Patty, before I go, I had to talk about the MOU. Patty, is bothering me. Is the MOU, are we going to ever have a plebiscite on that? Let's go with our pros and our cons and let the people have a plebiscite. I saw the former Premier on the other day talking about the MOU and how wrong it was, and still we had Muskrat Falls pushed down our throats. There was no plebiscite on that. There was no MOUs on that. And I called Randy Sims open line 10 years ago, whenever it was, to have a plebiscite on Muskrat Falls. So here we are, $13 billion in the hole because of Muskrat Falls. And then I hear this man talking about how we should, not go with Quebec again. Patty, before I go, is that like the kettle calling the pot black?
In some form, people will talk about the self-awareness or lack of on this front, and I get it. And Danny's a big boy, and I think he's probably going to call this program sometime into the future. Just a couple of things. And reading between the lines-ish, I think after Danny resigned and Kathy Dunderdale assumed the Premier's role, that pretty much she and other political parties, including many people in the PC party, they were calling that next election the Muskrat Falls election. Right? And I think John Hogan, Premier Hogan, is doing something very similar here. He's calling this coming election, which can't be very far away, the MOU election. So I think that's how they are considering requests or considerations of plebiscites, referendums, whatever the case may be, because he's pretty much labeled this election the MOU election. He might have accused Tony Wake of doing something that they may or may not do, is, pause this to the point where Hydro-Quebec walks away and looks at small nuclear reactors. Well, I don't know if that's the case, but so people are calling it the Upper Churchill Memorandum of Understanding election. And just my thoughts on the referendum, and this gets me in really hot water for some reason. Until something changes, like the mythical East-West Energy Corridor, then Quebec is and always will be the customer for the power. Why? Geography. I know people are loath to like anything to do with the province of Quebec. I get it. I totally understand. But just look at the map. There's only one way to get the power out, unless we're talking about building all big cables under the water. It's through Quebec. And in 2041, they remain the customer for Upper Churchill Power. These are just facts. I'm not trying to make anything up here. And with the referendum, like Dennis O'Keefe was on the show yesterday, and he said that had the same suggestion. Let's put it on the ballot. But then he went on to say that we should not be doing business with Quebec, and people have a justifiable concern, question, or anger or hate against the province of Quebec. How many people would vote no to this deal simply because the other party is Quebec? And if the same contract or MOU was in place and the other party was Nova Scotia, I think people would think about it differently. So that's why I think we'd have an emotional vote as opposed to something based on facts and debate and discussion and discourse.
And you're right, Paddy. And right now, from what I've heard about the MOU, I'm for it right now. But I'd like to hear, the pros and the cons and the big guys and talking about it and regular people talking about it. And at least let's have a vote on it. And I'm not against Quebec, Paddy. If we're going to get money out of this, then let's get money, because we need to pay off that $13 billion debt.
We got more than that too. If you back Muskrat out, which is not included in our sovereign net debt at this moment in time, or our provincial net debt, pardon me, so that's over $17 billion, in addition to the Muskrat noose around our necks. Junior, I got to get to the news, but I appreciate the time.
Wonderful, Paddy, and I appreciate your time. You and Beth have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, so Rudy was in the queue. Rudy Singleton, I'd like to get him back because he's talking about one of the food banks and some information we need to understand. Tom, you stay right there to talk about the water situation out in Kilbride. And then how are we doing on the phones, Beth? Let's get at it. Don't go away.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Bigland FM radio network.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 6, and good morning. Tom, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. Paddy, I'm calling this morning to update people about the issues. As you know, we've spoken several times about our water woes here in Kilbride. And, of course, water is in the news all over the city now because of the lack of rainfall and people's wells. A lot of people's wells have been going dry because historically a lot of wells do go dry when we don't have rain. But in the case of us, for the purpose of your listeners, they have a construction here along our main road, which essentially drained their wells. And so we've been trying since 2021 now to get the issue addressed at City Council. We filed claims, they were denied. We filed more claims, they were denied. We sent in reports, pictures, historical data, everything. All denied. And all throughout this, of course, our councillor, Carol Ridgely, was involved with us. As a matter of fact, over the last couple of months now, I've spoken to Carol probably 100 times. And essentially, there's about 41 of us, 41 households affected by the construction that caused us to lose our water. Now, the city would never acknowledge the problem. However, I'm pleased to report now that thanks almost solely to the efforts of Carl Ridgely, the city issued 41 $15,000 checks each to the 41 people affected. And as I'm speaking right now, I'm sitting in my backyard looking at a well drilling company drilling me an artesian well. This was solely due to the efforts of our councillor. I got repeated calls from Councillor Ellsworth, from Deputy Mayor O'Leary, and from Councillor Davis, and all of them saying, Tom, you got to take Carl from jumping on us. We will approve it. But thanks to Carl. And, I'm calling this morning just to update you and to let people know that I listened to a call last week about a gentleman I'm talking about a 75-year-old lady and her water woes. Well, that 75-year-old lady is one of the 41, and she's getting $15,000 to dig a well. So I can't say enough good things about Carl and what he did for this district. And, that's why I'm calling mainly, is to support him, because there was a lot of misleading information in that call, and I wanted to just update people that Carl was always available and always able to address this, and solely to him, we now are getting our water.
And good on him. It's a pretty big issue that for some reason doesn't get the kind of attention that it needed. There has been an awful lot of protests and calls and emails and all the rest of it. But this is pretty fundamental stuff. When the community was asking for just the basic services that the rest of the city is getting, and then just to wake up and see the big bill in their mailbox, is just that type of disconnect gets everyone off on the wrong foot to begin with. And while we're talking about Kilbride, Goulds and stuff like that, there's also a place in the city in the Gloucester Street area where there's this one particular email that says their home is 50 feet from the city hookup. Yet they're on a well, it runs dry every single year. They're having to get water delivered to drink and to flush the toilet and all the rest of it. So, when we're talking about living in or in close proximity to the capital city in a province in Canada and have these ongoing water concerns is, I'll use the word strange.
Well, and again, that's an issue I've been dealing with, Carl, in our area. And throughout the city, you take an area of Thorburn Road there, just beside the Avalon Mall, no water and sewer. Right beside the Avalon Mall, no water and sewer. And I've been an advocate for those people forever. But in our particular issue, of course, we had even though the city has given us it's our money now to dig our wells, the city still says, it's without prejudice. We didn't cause a problem, but here, just to get you guys to go away. But there's a large issue in this city with the inaction of council to provide residents with basic services. And it's only because, again, and I know I'm sounding ad nauseum here, it's only because of Carl, who constantly, throughout the summer months when the council only meets every 2 weeks, who called for emergency meetings in between those 2 weeks to deal with it. And, man, I'm sorry, but I can't say enough about him because of what he's done for us and solved our problems, because nobody knows what it's like. I had the mayor and Councillor Ellswood, and Councillor Ellswood also played a key role in this, who actually came out and visited us. And I showed both the mayor and Ron, here's a well 50 feet from this well. This well is now dry, and you paid for that well. And that's when he admitted, I think we caused the problem. So again, thanks to him, we have water, and you hear any noise now, it's because the well drilling company are setting up here, and they'll be immediately setting up to my other neighbours to get water. So, and that's why I called, was to just update people and to know that people say you can't fight City Hall. Well, yeah, you can fight City Hall, and you can win if you have somebody who's on your side. And in this particular case, it was Carl Ridgely.
Good news, and I guess way to go, Carl Ridgely.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for taking my call this morning, Paddy.
No problem, Tom. All the best.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, let's see here. Let's go to line number 2. Terry, you're on the air.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing okay. How about you?
I'm doing awesome. So I'm calling today to advertise. I'm having a yard sale this Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 1 at 5 7th Avenue, Pasadena. All proceeds are going to go to the Southwest Coast SPCA. People can either pay with money or with donations that the SPCA can use. And it's in loving memory of JC.
Who's JC?
JC was my dog.
What kind of dog was JC?
He was Shih Tzu.
And so, you want to tell us a little bit about JC? How old? Is JC a girl or a boy?
Well, JC was a dog that, I don't know if you remember, in Pasadena, that was taken and... Yeah, and killed. So yeah, I want to give back to the SPCA because I got 2 of my other animals from them, and they're wonderful to deal with. And you can tell how much they really, truly care about the animals that they're taking care of and animals in general. So I just wanted to put it out there because, like I said, I don't have any social media now or anything like that, and I didn't really know. My sister posted it online for me, but I wanted to get it out there bigger because if anybody wanted to do donations for the SPCA, like I'll gladly take it out to them, and they can pay with either money or anything that they can use: cat litter, cat treats, food, dog, whatever. Right?
Yeah. Look. If you don't want to, I get it. Do you want to remind people of the story about JC? Just maybe to bring more people to your yard sale?
Sure, yeah. So JC was taken from my home in October, and I found him in a field. Well, he was killed. Somebody killed him, and I found him in a field directly down the road from my home. So he would have been 2. He was 2 in the previous August. He was only a baby, right? And he was such a beautiful dog, like very well behaved, loving, and just wonderful to come home to every day and see him there and be a part of his life. And it was cut too short. But I want to give back to the SPCA. So if there's anybody out there listening, and you want to help animals or animals in general or whatever, Saturday and Sunday is your time to, donate if you'd like.
Good on you for doing it. And I think it's safe to say that people who work at places like the SPCA, volunteers and or on staff, their heart's in the right place. I mean, it takes a special kind of person to be, involved with these organizations. And I've always had a soft spot for animals and dogs in particular, even more so recently. And it's a big part of our lives, right? And in many respects, we don't deserve dogs. They're too good for us.
Oh, you got that right. I believe the same thing. They're angels on earth. They really are.
Terry, give the details on the yard sale one more time for the listeners.
So it's at 5 7th Avenue, Pasadena, this Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 1. It's in the garage behind the house. So when you pull into the driveway, you won't see it, but you have to go behind the fenced-in backyard. And there's a white garage there. It'll be inside the garage, so it'll be rain or shine. You can take whatever you want. It's donation-based, so you can pay with money or you can bring supplies for the SPCA. And I was talking to them last night, and I got their EMT email address, so whatever comes in, all proceeds is going directly to them.
Terrific stuff. I was scrambling to find my pen when I asked for your street address. Can you give it? I just found my pen. Can you give it to me one more time? I'll jot it down because inevitably someone's going to ask me for it.
Yeah, it's 5 7th Avenue, Pasadena.
Thank you very much. I hope you're doing well.
I am. I'm doing good.
Thanks, Terry. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure. All right, bye-bye. Oh, boy. Let's see here. Let's take a break. When we come back, Tony also wants to chime in about the proposed quarry out in Port Saunders. And I think, I saw a corner of my eye, Jessica Peddle from the Nurse Practitioners Association. She was in the queue, dropped out. I'm sure she's a busy woman. But we anticipate speaking with Jessica as well this morning about the pilot program coming for nurse practitioners. We'll find out a little bit more about it. And then we're speaking with you. Don't go away.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 4. Tony, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you this morning?
Not too bad at all. How about you?
Not too bad, I suppose. I'm calling pertaining to the proposed quarry development for the Port Saunders region.
Yep.
We've been a while getting at this, I guess, but anyway, we're at the point now to we're into the environmental assessment process, and that is getting close to completion. And we had a public meeting here in Port Saunders last week, I guess, where anybody could come out and ask a question, and a lot of people did. And hopefully we answered the questions that were being asked. So we felt good about the meeting at that time to go ahead with this development.
So obviously you're one of the proponents, are you, Tony?
I'm the mayor.
Oh, you're the mayor?
Yes.
Oh, okay, because it just has Tony on my screen. I apologize, Mayor. Welcome to the show. So
I'm not used to be called mayor.
Okay, well, I can call you Tony if you prefer.
Yeah.
Okay, Tony. So let's dig into it a little bit. So obviously there'd be some concerns on land, obviously, but we had a call from a fish harvester earlier talking about some of the impacts on marine life, whether it be sediment that will fall into the ocean, whether it be the residue from explosives, the other underwater vibrations. I suppose it's hard to answer those questions specifically if the proponents have not completed the environmental impact assessment. But what did you hear when those concerns were broached?
Well, my feeling was that, most of the questions that were asked at the public meeting were addressed, and you're not going to, I guess, satisfy everybody anyway. But the proposed development is kind of out of sight of the community. And by the way, I am a fisherman as well, and I've been one for a long time, a lobster fisherman. And the development, to the best of my knowledge, is not going to have any effect at all on lobster fishery. I don't see anything happening there when it comes to lobster fishery. And outside of that, there's things happening in this area that we have very little employment. We have no youth. Or we have some, but we have very few young people here in this area. And we've been working at this for a while now to try to get something to happen here in this area so that we can bring some people home or keep some of our people from going away. So the fishery is in a terrible condition. And we need to do something other than the fishery. At one time, you worked at the fishery, and when that was over, you went to work in the woods. There's no woods to work at anymore. So we had to try to reach out and do something to try to help this town survive.
What kind of job creation are you looking at with this proposed quarry?
Well, this proposed quarry, if it goes, it's not gone yet, but if it goes, it's going to start off with 65 positions and maybe grow as the quarry grows. We're doing something similar to what they have done out in Lower Cove on the Port Peninsula. And they've been in Lower Cove now for 30 years. And they started out there with 60 jobs, and right now within Lower Cove they have 101. So we're hoping that we are going to try to help make this town survive and even boost it a little bit if there's any way possible.
So can you give us, to the best of your recollection, some of those concerns about underwater noise and the impact on whether it be any marine life, lobsters included? Like, what were people saying in answer to those questions?
Well, for the first thing, there's going to be about every 2 weeks there's going to be a blast. That's going to be shaking up some rock. I don't know that it's going to affect anywhere in the town. This is not a mine. It's an open pit quarry.
Yeah.
So you're not going underground to shake up the earth and under the ground. When it comes to the lobster fishery, there's a boat that's going to be coming in maybe twice a month. And that boat is staying out in the run. And most lobster fishermen aren't fishing in what we call a run. They're fishing in shoulder water and stuff like that. So, and the dust is all controlled by the water in catch basins. So there's going to be a minimal amount of dust that's going to be coming from this operation.
Like most, I don't know a whole lot about this particular one, but when they talk about the aggregate, the quarry materials, is generally used for roadway development and the like, right? So is the proposal to ship out all that's blasted and all the aggregate from Port Saunders, or is this just for general use for whoever, wherever?
No, it's going to be shipped out.
Okay.
There's going to be a docking facility, not within our harbour, in the next harbour adjacent to us. There will be a docking facility, and the ship will come in. My understanding is a couple of times a month, and ship the aggregate out to parts of the United States.
Okay.
Or wherever it's needed. And it's used for road building, bridge building, buildings, and so on and so forth.
Interesting. I did indeed bring up the one document I could find on this particular thing. It includes the undertakings who are registered as the Port Saunders Northern Minerals Limited Quarry, Happy Valley Goose Bay South Branch Road Quarry. Then there's another one talking about Quarter Pulp and Paper. So these are all the quarry developments that are being considered, including the one in Port Saunders, which I've got it in front of me. But, of course, I'm busy doing the show at this moment in time. But I sent it to my email to have a look at it over the weekend.
Okay.
I appreciate the time, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
I appreciate yours. Are you running again?
Yes.
Okay, good for you. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tony. All the best. Bye-bye. All right, there you go. Let's go to line number one. Gabriel, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you?
Best kind. How about you?
I'm doing all right, I suppose. I would want to take the opportunity right now to promote a Newfoundland wrestling show happening this weekend.
Let's hear about it.
All right. So this Saturday, August 30th, it's going to be at Catamaran Park Campgrounds. Inner City Wrestling, they're going to be having their third edition of Slam Away Camp. It's going to be an excellent show, I feel. There's 3 matches I want to bring up. Before I do, though, I do have to mention one thing. There is one wrestler that was supposed to wrestle the weekend. One of our wrestlers, Jeremiah Javen. He was supposed to compete, but unfortunately he won't be able to due to medical issues. So hopefully a speedy recovery for him. As for everybody else, though, we have 3 matches announced so far. The first is a singles match taking place. It's going to be the Madman Tara Aziz. He's going to be facing off against one of our newest wrestlers, Bay Mysterio. Excellent high flyer. He's a very popular wrestler so far. The second match that we're going to talk about second match that viewers are going to see is a story featuring former teammates, former brothers, now nothing more than bitter enemies. Those are Defiant Axel Mason and Fearless Brady Felix. And finally, we have a title match happening at Catamaran Park between the ICW champ, the Dark Horse Shannon Shaw. He's going to go one-on-one with Hellraiser Justin Locke in the middle of Catamaran Park.
Who's the favorite? Hellraiser?
I can't say favorites. Sorry. I mainly because I have a lot of favorites.
Yeah, and I meant who's the favorite in that particular matchup. That's all.
Okay. I would say probably Hellraiser Justin Locke, I would say.
Fundamental question. Does Inner City Wrestling have, like, producers and writers, or do the wrestlers kind of do it for themselves?
Ooh, that's a tough question. The wrestlers, they put their own matches together as to what you want to see. As far as behind-the-scenes stuff, though, like music, entrances, all that, yeah, there are producers like that as well.
Yeah, you would have to assume so, right? Because it is entertainment as much as it is the physicality of the wrestling itself. So that's a good thing. Anything else you want to say about it before I ask you to give it the details of where the wins one more time?
The only thing I'm going to say right now, I unfortunately can't give any other names out at this time, but I'm sure we'll have some more surprises, some more twists and turns for the show. There is, outside of Bay Mysterio, who I already mentioned, there is another new guy. I don't know if he's competing the weekend or not, but there is another new guy in Newfoundland wrestling that is an up-and-comer. I'm really hoping he's involved as well.
Okay. Just in the big scheme of things in the world of professional wrestling, who's your favorite of all time?
For like wrestling as a whole?
Yeah.
You would say?
Yeah. Big time, big league wrestling.
That goes right to WWE. I'm pretty big John Cena guy.
He's more of a Hollywood actor now than anything else, isn't he?
He is.
I'll throw a couple out there. Back when we were kids, Bruno Sammartino. Can obviously say the Macho Man, Randy Savage, big fan. Bret the Hitman Hart, one of my favorites of all time. Ric Flair, guys like that.
Yeah.
I don't really watch wrestling anymore, though, I have to be honest.
Well, in that case, if you have the opportunity, you should probably head to Catamaran Park to watch Inner City Wrestling.
If I come out, I'll be dropping the big elbow on somebody. Gabriel, have fun. Enjoy the show. Thanks for your time.
All right. Not a problem.
Okay, buddy. All right, bye-bye. All right, let's take a break. Ray's in the queue to talk about the Churchill Falls issue as well. Don't go away.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Bigland FM radio network.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 3 and say good morning to the president of the Nurse Practitioners Association of Newfoundland and Labrador. That's Jessica Peddle. Good morning, Jessica. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you?
Great today. Thank you. How about you?
I am great. Thanks for asking.
I've been talking about this on the show for quite a long time, so yesterday's announcement is most welcome. Before we get into the workings of it, can you help us understand as to why it's a pilot program? Is it just to try to work out any potential gremlins in the billing model, or why is it a pilot?
Honestly, I think it is a pilot project, like you said, to work out any kinks before fully, making it concrete for sure. With anything new, I think there are going to be kinks. There are going to be things that need to be worked out, and this is going to be an ongoing assessment pilot project. The government are committed to continuously assessing this with us and making sure that it is the most successful for the people of the province.
How are the various nurse practitioners going to be selected? What's the association's role, and how are we going to know who's involved in this pilot?
So right now, as far as I know, there are many independent nurse practitioner clinics already operating around this province and doing it quite successfully. So it is going to be, I feel like, an application process. Anyone who wants to become part of this project will probably apply or put their name forward. And make sure that they have everything set up that will provide the most success for them and their clinic in this project.
And maybe you're not the right person to ask this question of, maybe it's NL Health Services or the minister, but I would imagine there'd be some sort of consideration and criteria associated with where in the province, because there's better services in one part of the province or another. We all know that to be true. So do you think geography is going to play a role here?
I don't believe so, as far as I know. Again, you're right. Maybe that is a better question for someone else. However, I do feel like any clinic and any part or any corner of this province that wants to participate in this, that it's an up and running, already established clinic, I can't see that being a problem. I do know there are clinics here in the St. John's metro region that will definitely avail of this service for sure. And then there are ones that are in rural that will quite benefit the people in those areas as well.
I wonder, again, we'll just talk about nurse practitioners and the role they play, which is critically important. I think people potentially undervalue the training that nurse practitioners have and the scope of practice that they bring to the table. But when we look at things like established nurse practitioner clinics where they've already hung out their own shingle and they're charging people cash, and thankfully that's gone by the wayside, but there's also funding for startups. So I think the worry for the long term has been that if the province went down this path, that more and more nurse practitioners may indeed move off to a private offering. Why? Because they have more control of their own schedule. They can take on a patient roster that suits them. So in the world of startup, what's going to be provided inside this funding?
So one thing that is provided in the funding is the charting system, so the EMR charting system that historically, if you start up your own clinic, that would have to come out of the nurse practitioner's pocket. So that will definitely be covered. But one big thing you're getting here is you're getting an affiliation agreement with the family care team. So you're able to refer into all those collaborative interdisciplinary team members. So like your occupational therapist, your physiotherapist, your diabetic nurse educator, your pharmacist, your mental health nurse. Like that is huge advantage with this pilot project.
Yeah, and one thing, you and I are familiar with some of the acronyms, but EMR, for folks listening, is the electronic medical records, which was a big deal and was a real hurdle that many people could not clear without the time and expense associated with it.
100%. And honestly, the electronic medical record, the one that is being offered, really can benefit patients as you can get through more patients throughout the day, as opposed to the historic, archaic ones that were having to be used in these clinics previously.
This would be a very fundamental question for you, and I make these types of references, albeit not as a healthcare professional, obviously, is so many people... so like when we talk about the wildfires, water bombers, that's the go-to. When we know there's many other tools that we put in the toolbox. And when people want access to primary care, they're thinking, doctor. So I think there's a bit of a base misunderstanding exactly what a nurse practitioner can do. So can you dispel some of the myths about some restrictions that nurse practitioners might face? Because the scope of practice is pretty broad.
Well, here in Newfoundland, we are quite fortunate to have our nurse practitioners to have the broadest scope in the provinces. They are restricted elsewhere. We are not restricted here. We have no restrictions on what we can order. We have no restrictions on what we can prescribe or diagnose or refer to. We truly are primary healthcare providers, and it's time that we be recognized for that. We take on a full roster of patients. We care for them. There really is no limitations to our practice. It's whatever you're comfortable with doing in your own practice and your own limitations. And if you're not comfortable, then you refer out at that time. But I think, even the Registered Nurses Union right now, they have a clarity project ongoing that says there's an NP for that. And there truly is. We really do in this province need to look at this as a good thing. We need to all work together to benefit the people of this province. This is just providing more access and more care to the people and the residents of Newfoundland and Labrador, and that's where we really need to focus here. We need to work together and become one and just benefit the people of this province.
If I'm an individual nurse practitioner and I get accepted in this pilot project and I have my standalone clinic, and maybe I have one or two NP colleagues, how does it work in the word collaboration? Because if I go to a collaborative care clinic that might have a family doctor, a nurse practitioner, a licensed practical nurse, social worker, pharmacist, then the collaboration is in-house. How would it work in a standalone clinic? Because, there's other healthcare providers. There would be social workers, as I mentioned. So that collaboration for what they call coordinated care, how does that work?
So it would work no different as if you worked inside the family care team. So you see a patient, you identify the services that they need, whether that be attached to a social worker or you need to see the diabetic nurse educator. Then you do a referral and it goes directly to a nurse that screens that. So then it sets that appointment up with that team member. So if you're in a standalone independent clinic, then you're referred to the nurse that works in that project that will set you up with the appropriate services.
Okay, fair enough. This one is a hypothetical, but we'll see if we can help identify some pilot program kinks that are possible. So does anything come to mind that we have to have a better understanding of? Because this is in place in other provinces. They've probably done a lot of the kink work for us already. So what should we be worried about for potential pitfalls or issues that have to be dealt with?
I don't know that any truly come to mind. And so, as you know, this has been worked on for many, many years from many presidents before me. I was just the one that was in the hot seat when this came to fruition. We have collaborated with other presidents of other provinces who have put this in place and have failed. So we've kind of learned from their mistakes. So we're kind of at a benefit there. I really can't think of anything, but maybe the onboarding of so many patients at one time. There may be a little bit backlog of trying to get an appointment. I'm not sure, but a lot of these patients are already being seen at these clinics to date anyway. We are very committed to, very closely monitoring this, working with the kinks firsthand as it happens. So I feel positive about this, and like I said, government is very committed to making sure this succeeds with us.
It's a win for the nurse practitioners, and I would suggest it's a win for government, because whether or not people think politicians care about the individual, if we can increase access to primary care, regardless of it's the Liberals, the Tories, the NDP, independent members of the House of Assembly, it's best for us as voters, as us for people who may indeed need to interact with the healthcare system.
100%. I think, honestly, at the end of the day, we can take the politics out of it and, again, bring it back to the people of this province. There's still so many without a primary health care provider. We're providing more access, and there's definitely enough work to go around for everybody. So let's just bring it back to the positive here, take the politics out of it, take anything else that is involved out of it, and just really look at this as a win for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Jessica, I appreciate the time. As we work through the pilot, we'll have another conversation, see how things are going.
Absolutely. Look forward to it, Patty. Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Take good care. All right, there he goes, Jessica Peddle, President of the Nurse Practitioners Association. Let's see here. Ray, you stay right there to talk Churchill Falls. Don't go away.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Bigland FM radio network.
Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 2. Ray, you're on the air.
And a pleasant good morning, Patty.
Same to you, sir.
I'm kind of wondering, what was the idea of building the Churchill Falls latest project? Here we've got deal signed into 50 years for the rate. But in the meantime, like, how much of this hydro is actually being used for the goodness of Newfoundland and Labrador? How much is being elsewhere? Can we sell our product on the other side of Quebec and get paid for it and have some of that money put on this $15 billion debt? When people like Quebec come in on this deal, are they getting a greater share, the lion's share of this product? And should they not be paying equally for what it costs for us, or even more for what it costs us to get the place built?
Okay, there was a lot of questions there.
Yes.
What was the first one you asked? About the lion's share of the power? Right?
Yes, who gets the lion's share? Where's it going to?
Okay, so are we talking about the Lower Churchill at Gull Island specifically, or?
Well, we're talking about the latest Churchill Falls development, Lower Churchill.
Okay, let's start at the upper. So there's a 300 megawatt Labrador recall block of power that inside this MOU will be quadrupled to 1,200, and that's good for Labrador. Other than the power that's currently being generated at the Upper Churchill, the breakdown does not change. Inside the expansion, it does change. At Gull Island, that's about 2,225 megawatts. We only have access to about 225 or 250 megawatts. Hydro-Quebec gets the rest. The reason, I suppose, because they're building it and taking all the risk there. So the lion's share of power is absolutely to Hydro-Quebec. The Churchill River will have somewhere in the neighborhood of an additional almost 4,000 megawatts, of which Hydro-Quebec gets most of it. That's absolutely true.
Now, in the meantime, this other deal where we're going and passing over hydro to Quebec to sell to the States and elsewhere, or wherever they want, shouldn't they be responsible for paying 8 or 10 billion of that for getting the use of the hydro when we get so very little of it?
To date, Hydro-Quebec, based on the 1969 contract, has benefited well in excess of $2 billion, which just dwarfs what this province has brought in. At this moment of time, paying 0.2 cents per kilowatt hour on the pathway to 5.9 cents per kilowatt hour. Now, the concept of price elasticity and demand into the future is an excellent question. There is a so-called escalator clause here, but that's only about predictable timeframes as opposed to predictable prices. So, yes, Hydro-Quebec can sell this power wherever they want. I guess there's a regulatory issue with selling to the States, but they already have much of that already cleared. So, base answer, yes, they can sell it. And
I'll go back to one of my questions.
Okay.
How come the ratepayers in Newfoundland are strapped with the majority of that bill when Quebec should be strapped with the majority of that bill?
The majority of which bill? Muskrat Falls?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's just see. Me and you are the negotiating partners here. You come to the table with an average price of electricity in your province or community at around 8 cents. There's floating numbers in Quebec, but on average it's about 8 cents. In this province it's about 14.25 cents. That's what you brought to the table when we sat down, and this is what I brought to the table when we sat down. So the bill at Muskrat, that's completely self-inflicted. We did that project. We built it. We're the customer. So I brought my own baggage to the table. You brought your own baggage. Mine happened to be heavier and more expensive than yours. So would you as the 8 cent guy, say, okay, let me pay off some of the Muskrat bill?
What I'd like to see, is there a way that us people, ratepayers, get information on just how it works? Can't there be something put out every year stating who paid what, how high the bill still remains, and if there's a chance that we can get out of this, what Newfoundland is tied into for 50 years?
Not that I know of, but as it pertains to Muskrat, and these are the first questions that we asked when we first heard this announcement, is if we're talking about, on average, $1 billion a year for 17 years. And it doesn't start out at $1 billion in year one. That's not the case at all. It ends up after 17 years on average. And so the question would be, exactly how do we use that money? Because if it just flows into government coffers to be spent as they see fit, That's not great. So if it would be used, say, 3 different areas that I asked about was deficit, debt, and most importantly, trying to control the rates because of Muskrat Falls. And so the answers were pretty much yes. The priority, I think, needs to be on rates. It just does, because it's kind of out of control. We saw another 7% bump this summer already, which we don't really notice until the winter kicks in. There's, even with the billions of dollars from hydro, which only lasts for 6 years, so in 2030, we won't have predictable increases. We'll have potentially huge increases, which this money has to be used for. No question. But it's not built into the contract. It would have to be built into how government operates.
Yes. Where is all this money going to be hid? Who's going to know where it went to? And where's the accountability? That is a major concern. So we got to wait and see. And we just had a 7% increase not long ago, like you said. And then, of course, we have the taxes on top of that. Now, coming on the fall, we're going to get kicked again with another increase, I would imagine. And once again, it'll be not just 7, there'll be taxes on it. And there was some other thing that I meant to say there, but I've kind of lost my train of thought.
Well, you can take your time and try to recollect it. Happy to.
Yeah, but there's so much going on.
Oh, man.
That is very easy to lose your train of thought, because I feel that we don't have to know what the politicians are doing. It's the politicians' business, not the business of the people. And when is it going to come to a time when they have elections and the people that lost the elections will sit down at the table, and instead of all this fighting back and forth, and you're better than I, and I'm better than you, and you did this, and I did that, growing up mature people, sitting together for the goodness of the country, making decisions, and both agreeing on them for the good of the people.
Yeah, and how we handle this, because to use your own words, losing train of thought, and there's so much on the go, I mean, you're speaking my language here, because I lose my train of thought half a dozen times a show. I can admit that freely. And with this being as complicated as it is, and look, we've had Jennifer Williams on, and we've had people who are in opposition to it, and we've got this new letter and all that stuff. If this is going to be the Upper Churchill election, then 2 things need to happen. Number 1, what 2041 means needs to be fully understood. We need the group that was struck by the government to examine 2041 and the implications of that date to tell us exactly what it means. And to exclude the MOU, but what 2041 means. Then incorporate and have a very public to and fro addressing all the concerns brought forward, whether it be by David Vardy or Gabe Gregory or Danny Williams or whoever. Because unless we get these very thorough, fulsome conversations, we're probably still going to be guessing. And we're going to be saying Quebec bad, consequently don't like it. Liberals bad, don't like it. That's not good enough. So I'm actually going to consider trying to select a couple of people, so-called, on either side of this issue and devote the bulk of a show to it. It's too important to not get this conversation out there and publicly and done publicly, not in little private meetings and not behind closed doors and not in letters. We need to really have all these questions answered. I still have questions, and I'm pretty confused, and I've spent a lot of time trying to figure this out.
For sure. And looking at, you talk to Hydro now. I made a call. I heard rumors going around about different things. So I made a call, and I asked them about getting on the budget for this year. And they asked me my driver's license number. Now, why would they ask me my driver's license number? And then they only use the last 3 letters or numbers of your driver's license. Does that mean when people are so strapped, you take senior citizens trying to pay their rent, trying to pay hydro bills, and trying to get around, and now they may even lose their driver's license until they get their hydro bill paid?
Is that a thing?
Like, I don't know. Why would you want a driver's license?
I really don't know. Maybe it's in an effort to reconcile that they know exactly who they're dealing with, but that's the first I've heard of it. Nor have I ever heard of anyone having their driver's license compromised because of their hydro bill. I've really honestly haven't heard that before, right?
It was only when John Effer got in, I heard of people losing their license or not getting a moose license because of the Highway Acts.
Okay.
They do all kinds of strange things, and what business do the hydro people have in knowing my driver's license number to begin with?
None, as far as I can think of off the top of my head. I'll chase that one around a little bit to see if I can figure it out, because right now that I don't even know what the implication would be, to be honest, but I'll see what I can figure out.
And I heard a call back previously to mine, and somebody was saying about wrestlers, and I wanted to throw in Dick the Bulldog Bauer, Whippy Willow Watson, the Russian guy, Kalmakov brothers, and let's not forget those little guys that we used to call midgets.
Oh, Sky Low.
May you have a nice day.
You too, sir. All the best, Ray. Bye-bye. Sky Low is one of them. I know that for sure. Update on the call we had earlier this week from George. George reported that he woke up to find that someone had tried to set his deck on fire. The deck attached to his house. He was anticipating fire inspection to come by, and the RNC, forensic and investigative resources got on it. The neighbors provided some video cam footage or what have you, and there has been an arrest. So whoever tried to set that deck on fire has been arrested. Let's take a break for the news. Don't go away.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Bigland FM radio network.
Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 3. Good morning, Edie. You're on the air.
Good morning. How are you? Before I even begin, let me put the gentleman's mind at ease that you previously spoke to. As a retired utility worker, I can guarantee him his driver's license would have only been on file because at some point he would have given it to them as a mechanism for identifying him over the phone. I myself had asked that same question whenever the identifier was of customers for years, and it's just a means of making sure that they don't speak or share his information with anybody.
Yeah, like I said to him, I assume it's an opportunity to reconcile who you're speaking with, as opposed to...
You were correct, yes.
Yeah, because, there's other pieces of information that I don't want to share, and Hydro does not need. Like, for instance, my social insurance number or my MCP number.
Some people give that. They use whatever is the customer wants to give, and that would be up to the customer, and they don't share it with anybody. That's one thing at Newfoundland Power or Hydro, both companies, they don't share customer information with anybody.
Fair enough.
I can attest to that. Trust me. We were monitored. Everything was done as to perfection when it comes to your privacy.
I appreciate the information, informed information. Thank you.
Yeah, but that's not what I called for. What I called for was actually the conversation I heard about nurse practitioners and family health care teams. I'm going to try to do this without being emotional because it's a very emotional subject for me, is that I want to pass out the biggest bouquet of kudos that I could ever give to any one thing that government or healthcare agencies did over the last 5 years, because the creation of these teams provides people with something that we've never had before. Personally, I have a family member who was severely sick during COVID, and when I say multiple major health issues, and we lost our family doctor. After 3, really, everything from cancer care, you name it, something happened, and then it was a spinal surgery. We left St. John's to have to come back to the West Coast, and he needed to have stitches removed and follow-up care. We had no doctor. We didn't know where to turn, and the doctor, the specialist in St. John's said, look, he doesn't need a family doctor. He needs care, but he needs to have this stuff done, and then instead of us flying back and forth to St. John's, they were going to, because of COVID, they were trying to lessen that, right? So what happened was I called Western Health. They couldn't find a doctor, so they called us, and they said that they were going to give us this nurse practitioner. So she called and we had a conversation with her, and then we went up to the clinic, and she took us on as patients. Actually, our whole family she sees now. And we didn't just see her. We became a member of this family health care team. He has since then had different issues, that at one point he had surgery, needed stitches out. So instead of a doctor taking out the stitches now, there's an RN there or an LPN. There's people there qualified to do everything. He's had skin cancer. They did that there. For 5 years, I believe he's been at the hospital once in 5 years. He has his appointments with the specialists. Medically, all his medical care and whatever is required is done by that family care team. It's amazing. So for anybody in this province that's looking for health care and they're given the opportunity to be adopted by one of these teams, they should consider themselves lucky.
You know, when you think about it, conceptually speaking, like I'll call it a one-stop shop. So inside my family care team, which I'm lucky enough to be connected with one, there's a variety of different healthcare professionals. And the collaboration and coordinated care seems to be working for me. You know, there's a couple of things to it. Number one, the concept just makes all the sense in the world. And hopefully there's going to be 35 of these collaborative care clinics right around the province at some time in the future. The trick will be is adding enough healthcare professionals to these teams as opposed to simply moving healthcare professionals around. And I know that's easier said than done, but the family care team just makes sense. It really, truly does. If you look right around the country, it's the go-to mechanism to improve access to primary care. Everyone's
I feel a little tiny bit, I agree with what you're saying, but I feel a tiny little bit different than what you do. Because I do believe, from a government perspective, and I believe it comes from the fact that we've been in every hospital, like, because there's been, like, for instance, orthopedics, there was a specialist in Grand Falls. Like, we've been in a lot of them over the last 5 years. We've witnessed a lot. We're still going back and forth to the Health Science Center. I just recently got back from in there. But one of the things I believe that could happen, and I believe should happen, is the whole mechanism of healthcare needs to be looked at differently. Some of the professionals we have in hospitals could possibly be integrated into some of these clinics, because they're so much more efficient. There's no wait period there. It's not like going and sitting down for 10 hours and having to wait to see somebody, because everybody does their own thing. And like these nurse practitioners, the one we have, and like when she's gone, she sometimes goes to Labrador and does a little stint or whatever. Mm-hmm. If she's off, there's another one takes. They're all wonderful. They're all the same. But like the efficiency, they can do things that normally you would think you would have to go to the hospital to have done, but you don't. Like, everything gets done there. Like when, for instance, if you have skin cancer, they can burn off and remove spots, and then you see a specialist because you're under the care of a specialist anyway, right?
Yeah.
A lot of these diseases, you're under the care of a specialist. So you only intermittently have to, and like, for instance, we adopted the premise of being able to, because we're from out of the area, like for us, instead of going back and forth to St. John's, if we can do it by a telephone or a video conference appointment, we prefer that, because it's just less hassle, there's less wear and tear on us, and less expense for us, right?
Absolutely.
So we've adapted into all these, and we asked that question, and then, once in a while you got to have hands-on, but, sometimes you can do it that way, right? So the whole premise of healthcare, I believe, is got to open up and got to change to towards this type of family care teams.
We are 100% in the same church, maybe almost in the same pew. The only thing, I guess, my thoughts regarding the hospital staff is that if we're talking clinics, then fair enough. Those pros could absolutely be in a collaborative care setting. If we're talking about emergency rooms, well, that's its own standalone sort of operation. And
that's
then
right.
for people on the floor, then, of course, we're always going to have the issue of patients in beds in hospitals. So I think we're kind of talking about the exact same thing. I was thinking about a hospital and everything that goes on in it, which includes clinicians that could be working elsewhere. Emergency rooms, that's always going to be a thing. On the floor, that's always going to be its own thing as well. But I'm glad it's working for you. And knock on wood, it seems to be working for me so far, too.
I think it could work for anybody, and I believe we need to expand on that. That's where the money needs to start. And we need to complement these clinics with, because I believe there's a new clinic in my area being built, and apparently it's going to be expanded a bit. And I believe that's where the future is. I really and truly do, because like I say, to us, that nurse practitioner we see, she's better than anything we've ever had, and she's been a gift. That's all we can say. We tell her all the time, you've been a gift to us. There's no other way of explaining it. Everybody in that clinic, we're so appreciative. Like, it's just, I can't explain. Because there's been so many different issues, and to have them dealt with so efficiently, and to have them done with such tenderness and so much care and professionalism, and you're getting the best of the best service.
I'm really pleased to hear that's your experience, and I think you're absolutely right. It's going to be a key linchpin in the healthcare delivery system right across the country, and certainly here in this province. Edie, great to have you on the show. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, dear.
You're welcome.
Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about what's on the go here, Labor Day, and then whatever you want to talk about. Don't go away.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Bigland FM radio network.
Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 1. Craig Flynn, you're on the air.
Good day, Patty. How are you today?
That's kind. How about you?
Good boy, good boy. Patty, I'm coming on today now to talk about a big fundraiser that we're doing out at the old courthouse out in Harbour Grace. Of course, we've all seen the devastation that the fires have caused in our neck of the woods up there in CBN. And, of course, we've had our own staff affected by it. Some of them evacuated. Some of them had family members who lost houses. And we decided that we wanted to try to do a little something to give back. And so we normally have a Labor Day sort of a big event out in the courthouse anyways. This year we decided to turn it into a fundraiser. United by Music and Hope, it's called. It's a Songs of Support at Outdoor Music Festival. So we're actually kicking it off tonight with our trivia night, supported with Stephen Diamond. You can come in and sit down for trivia, make a donation. Friday night, we've got our karaoke on the go with an open mic night. Again, come in by, make a donation, sing a few songs. Saturday, we've got during the day, we've got a cornhole and barbecue bash, a family event on that day. Saturday night, we're doing a full-on dance with Danita Power, Paula Brushett, Evan Weeks, Tyler Humby, Ugly Andy, and those beautiful Ugly Sticks, a band very familiar to anyone who goes to O'Reilly's. Great band. They're coming out, donating their time for Saturday night for a dance. But Sunday is the big day. As you know, Brendan always throws a great bash for Paddy's Day. Well, this is kind of like Paddy's Day in September. We've got kicking off at 11:30 on Sunday, going right to 9 o'clock tonight. We've got a slew of entertainers: Damien Follett, Craig Ryan, Tarahan, Kaylee, McDonald family, Bill Kelly, Tom Conway, Mock Green, Down Forward, Robbie Martin, Johnny Dale, Stephen Collins, Rugged Shores, Corner Boys, and kicking it finally and closing off is the Islanders, and they're from out in that area as well. And all these musicians have donated their time for this worthy cause. When Brenda reached out, we had more musicians put their names forward than we actually had space for. So it's the musical community always steps up here in Newfoundland, and I think a bit of a reprieve from all the bad news out there happening. I think this event is going to be a great event. And we've got some advance tickets available at historicharbourgrace.com. But it's going to be a fun event, and it's all donations, of course, are going towards the Red Cross. We're donating portions of bar sales as well. So we're hoping to raise some money, and of course, with the province and the feds stepping up, triple the money. So that's always good.
Absolutely. So the fundraising monies will go just straight to the Canadian Red Cross, or what's the plan? Or maybe you already said it.
It's going right to the Red Cross. The 2025 NL wildfires appeal. So it goes directly to that, and then of course, like it was announced that that's going to get topped up by the province and the feds.
And that's a good thing. And this is a very specific question, but when the feds announced it, it was retroactive to the beginning of the fundraising campaign. So do you actually know the dates that it is going to be covered by the match by the province and the feds? I don't.
I'm not sure how far back it's going. I know that they're saying mid-September is for the close of it, but I don't think a specific date has been given. But like I said, they've been just saying up to mid-September. So whatever that date is, I'm not sure. But it's with all these events that we've got on the go, there's certainly something for someone to come by and, like I said, throw a few dollars down and help a very worthy cause and get to listen to some great music. And of course, the restaurant will be open the whole time there. So we're expecting a really good weekend out there. Of course, it's in the location itself inside. We're doing it inside the jail courtyard and the courtyard of the jail, and inside the jailhouse itself. We're doing some of the shows. So it makes for a very unique venue.
Yeah, no doubt. Craig, help us understand how the summer tourism season has gone, especially the impact that you may or may not have felt because of the Canada Summer Games.
Well, it was I must say, in St. John's, it was a fantastic summer. I think it's probably, we have to go back to, pre-COVID 2018, to go back to have just as great as summer. It was a great recovery summer for us coming out of COVID and then hyperinflation, which really devastated our industry. Both of those things were a 1-2 punch. And talking to my fellow restaurateurs and stuff like that, I think everyone seemed to be up. Sales were up, and even it started really early. In fact, we had a great June and a great July. And it's I think that hopefully we've taken the turn on the economy. I don't know what if what's happening, but I think a lot of it does have to do with Canadians deciding to do their staycations in Canada. Newfoundland's always been on a bucket list item, and I think a lot of them have decided to rather than spend that money down stateside, have decided to come out east. And I know we've welcomed a lot of people from out west this year. And they're all really, and a lot of them do say, like, we were on the bucket list. Now, unfortunately, of course, of the fires, we had a little bit of a negative impact out our way in Harbour Grace. No one wants to drive towards a forest fire, let's say. But other than that, it's been an overall a great summer.
Yeah, glad to hear it. And a very quick one, a bit of a general question. I hate to paint a negative picture of a place where so many of my friends own businesses and work, but the face of downtown has changed. I mean, let's be realistic. Do you think we're on a path to turn that back a little bit? Because I know there's been a bunch of groups formed and different approach taken by maybe the RNC and the city itself and the downtown business owners, because it has changed, and not for the better. Where are you?
I'll agree with you 100% there. It's good to see that there is an effort to try to change it. I don't think it's just limited to the downtown. I think the face of our city has changed. I own office buildings and stuff like that in other parts of town, and we're just as I find needles on front doorsteps and things like that, just as many as I in my downtown area as I do up in my building up in the center of town. And it's I think that us as a society, I think the government needs to get a bigger handle on it. I think that we need to, there needs to be more intervention, the ability for people to be able to get out there and get the help that they need to, get off these harder drugs that they seem to be addicted to. I don't think anyone ever wakes up in the morning and wants to be, I want to be addicted to drugs today. I think that it's a lack of help that they need to receive, and we're hopefully Governments are moving towards it, but it seems to be very, very slowly moving towards us.
Yeah, and you make a key point. Your grandfather's cocaine is not the drugs on the street of today, which has further complicated an already extremely complex issue regarding mental health and addictions and homelessness and crime. It's just a different world out there. A lot of that is fueled by the much different, more dangerous and highly addictive drugs.
Exactly, and we see it out around, out around the Bay, the Harbour Grace area. It's not just that area; it's all over. It's not just, it used to be that was a towny thing, sort of thing, was the perspective of it, but it's not. It's it's a real scourge that's affected all parts of Newfoundland and Labrador, and every not just it's every economical. Part of it. It's not just poor people. There's, other people that are maybe wealthy people that are struggling with it just as much as there are people who are struggling just to get by day to day.
I have a buddy, well-educated, well-to-do, big job, nice family, all gone. All gone.
Yes.
They're heartbreaking.
Yep.
Craig, have a great weekend out in Harbour Grace. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Patty.
All the best.
Hope to see you out there.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye. Let's see here. Let's take our break for the newscast. When we come back, still tons of time left for you. Oh, wait, no. Cecil out in Spaniards Bay. He's got a Chesterfield that he's willing to give to one of the people displaced or impacted by the wildfires in Conception Bay North. If you like a free Chesterfield, Cecil's got one for you. Give him a shout. 709-683-1928. Don't go away.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line 3 and say good morning to one of the candidates running in Ward 2 here in the city of St. John's. That's Greg Smith. And good morning, Greg. You're on the air.
How's it going, Patty?
Not too bad. Is that a bad phone line? Yeah, I think so, Greg. Yeah, it is. I'm going to put you on hold. Yeah, not really. I think we got one of those squeaky lines. So we'll get Beth to organize Greg on a different line. So basically we just call him back, I suppose, is the best thing we can do. There's a lot to consider regarding the wildfires, obviously. I've been asked many, many times about the merit in government coming to the financial aid of those who lost their home that was not insured. Now, a couple of structures have been lost that people just simply could not get insured. Number one. Number two, it kind of feels like a bit of a precarious time that people are experiencing to start talking about things like that. I'll say that, number one. Number two, like everything that government spends money on, really have to consider the option of not supporting. Because some of the biggest costs we will absorb is if people find themselves displaced from community, consequently away from where they work, consequently without a roof over their head, then what? Right? That's a big question. Yeah, I'll get Greg down in a second. Also, in addition to things regarding the Upper Church of Gull Island and all the rest of it, and I've had people make reference to what's happening in the province of Quebec, which absolutely has to be considered, and it's the concept of artificial intelligence data centers. Quebec is going all in. We have a little bit of a different set of circumstances, though, don't we? So you look at the benefit of an AI data center being brought to, say, Labrador, for instance. Upfront construction and some of those jobs, but when you compare to things like big industrial or commercial mining opportunities, pales in comparison. The data centers draw copious amounts of power. They really, truly do. And then if you look at some of the folks out there, like the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, the Jeff Bezos of the world, they're going all in on artificial intelligence as well, which will make them filthy rich. The benefit to me and you, highly questionable. Especially when you look at, say, the advent of social media. Net positives at the beginning were there for all to see. It was a great tool. It's turned into less than that. So AI, yeah, it could indeed be opportunities with the power generated on the Churchill River, but is there a consequential bang for our power buck to bring a data center versus to explore what we know are the wealth of critical minerals and rare earth minerals that are right there in Labrador and on the island that need serious amounts of power as well. So put that out there, just see what you think. Let's see if we reconnect with Greg on 2. Greg Smith, you're back on the air.
Can you hear me okay now?
I can hear you okay now.
Okay, that's good. I was just out putting some signs up, so maybe it was too loud in the car. I just wanted to call today and just talk about what a success the Canada Games was for both the province and the city. I want to congratulate the athletes, obviously Team Newfoundland and Labrador in particular, but all the athletes across the country on, representing the province or territory and coming here. To all the volunteers, the thousands of them, the mission staff, the coaches, all the support, the parents, fans. It was such a raging success. And I work at the airport, as some might know. So I saw a lot of them coming out and leaving St. John's and just absolutely love the city, love the atmosphere, love the fans, love the venues. I think it goes to show that this city and this province knows how to host so many sporting events. And I know myself personally as a curler, what it's like to be the home team here, whether it was years ago juniors in Corner Brook or Slam in Paradise, or even as a spectator, not playing, but watching the Slam at Mile 1. So it's just amazing, the vibe in the city. Obviously, the economic impact is wonderful. But I think that in turn, because we do such a great job at hosting, you never know. Some of these students might come here for university in years to come. They might move here. And I think that, people do really enjoy getting to come out here and check off a list on a bucket list.
Yeah, and, this might not be meaningful to some, but I think in the big scheme of things it is that not only the economic shot in the arm that the Games brings, which is undeniable, it's, now that we have more upgraded, nationally and internationally accredited facilities, that's a concept of sports tourism. So even if you don't like sports and you don't care one way or other about these competitions, the fact of the matter is if we can bring people to the province, because now we have the accredited facility, that presents opportunity. And so opportunity is a good thing, and we need to take advantage of it in full, because just think about some of the facilities. They don't necessarily have to jibe with the peak tourism season. Like an upgraded Aqua Arena can see winter meets with hundreds of people that are brought to town for one national competition or another. So I think there's a bit more to it than simply 2 weeks of competition.
No, 100%. I think that the impact on this Games is going to go well beyond, and sports tourism is a huge thing. I mean, look at, the Briars coming up here, God willing, hopefully get to represent Newfoundland and Labrador. So, there's a lot of competition, but stuff like that, I mean, and you look at other sporting events, nationals that we host for softball, every other sport, bowling is one I obviously do myself, but the impact is great, and people do fall in love with the place, and it's really, the fans here are second to none. You get that kind of excitement, you get that kind of atmosphere, and, hats off to everybody involved. I think that the city and the province and everybody involved in the Canada Games did a spectacular job, and hearing from people and coaches, serving them at the airport and saying this was one for the memories. I mean, they've been to a lot of Canada Games, and I don't know if they say that about every place. I'm sure they might, but this place certainly is special to a lot. So I want to mention that. And then finally, too, it's exciting for our city to have hockey back at Mile 1. So I know that there's a lot of talk happening about the Newfoundland Regiment. Not Mile 1, sorry, Mary Brown Centre. But it's so exciting that is back, and I look forward to going to a game with my dad, and I know a lot of people are looking forward to catching the action of that. So it's nice to see, and that'll also be an economic boost for the downtown too. And look, I love a game of hockey myself and welcome the regiment to town. And for my money, I prefer the Quebec Major Junior League to either the East Coast League or the American Hockey League for a bunch of different reasons. The kids going, I was going to say balls to the wall, going absolutely all out to try to make it to the next stage. Then there's plenty of what I'll call mistakes or lapses, which leads to some exciting stuff, 3-on-2s, 2-on-1s. So I really enjoyed the junior, maybe because I saw every single Fog Devils game because I was covering it for Rogers TV. But come on with the regiment. Yeah, no, it's super exciting, and I think you're right. These athletes have something to prove in this stage of their career too, and they want to move up the ranks. And it's going to be exciting to see the action there. It's going to be exciting to see the Mary Brown Centre with some more pro sports on the go. So it's just great. But that's what I wanted to call in really today. I'll be calling in, obviously, talking more about some more in-depth policies that I want to mention a little later in the campaign in the later stages. But today I just want to basically kind of share the joy of all the good stuff that's happening with the Canada Games, and obviously what's about to happen at Mary Brown Centre with the Newfoundland Regiment. Good on you, Greg. Appreciate your time this morning. Thanks a lot. Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye. It's Greg Smith.
Running in Ward 2. Okay. Just very quickly before we get to the break, and we still have another segment of the program left for you, and this is about water use advisories, water conservation orders that are in place. Like, for instance, in the city of St. John's, water conservation orders have been implemented year-round since 2022. Not everybody knows that. But this is a message coming from the town of Hughesbrook. They are requesting our assistance in broadcasting this public service announcement regarding conservation, water conservation. They say, our dam level is currently 2 foot lower than full with no overflow. Ongoing dry conditions, there is limited inflow. To protect our community's drinking water supply, we're asking residents to immediately reduce all non-essential water use. We kindly request that we share this, and I'm sharing it right now. So everyone understands what non-essential water use is. And for the most part, it's things like watering your lawn and or filling up the backyard swimming pool or washing the car, those types of things. So if you're in Hughesbrook, the town has reached out to us to broadcast the fact that they really need you to be mindful of it. It's probably worthwhile looking at your own community's webpage, whether it be there's these types of orders in place in Paradise and in CBS and in Torbay and in Mount Pearl and in St. John's. And certainly that's got to be the case in other parts of the province as well. So probably worth checking with your municipality, because nobody wants to be a contributing factor to all of a sudden there's not enough water to go around. And all of a sudden the reservoir goes dry like it did in Sunnyside, which is extraordinary. I mean, it went bone dry. No water. None. Not talking about conservation orders. You didn't have to conserve because there was none there to use. Let's check it out in the Twitter box. Wherever you always say open line, follow us there. And I made this suggestion earlier. And, you know, generally speaking, the show works best when there's a bunch of different topics getting bounced around. Now, some days, of course, it's predictably going to be heavily focused on one issue or another, and that's just nature of the beast. And whatever you want to talk about, it's up to you, right? I made the thought or a suggestion that maybe given the overall importance of this Upper Churchill conversation, it's probably worth our while to try to organize not an adversarial for ratings radio program, but information. So if we can get, for instance, proponents, whether it be Carl Smith, Jennifer Williams, and or people such as Gabe Gregory, Dave Vardy, some of the signatories to the open letter that was offered yesterday, to come in and see the questions or hear the questions asked, to get the answers given. A bit of to and fro, not in an effort to, cause sparks to fly, but so that people of the province can be as best informed as possible. There's just too much on the line. What do you think about that? Offer your feedback on the Twitter box, and of course, we're VOCM Open Line, or the email, we're openline@vocm.com. Final break in the morning. Still time to get in on the action. If you're in and around town, it's 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. We're taking a break, and then we're coming back.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Bigland FM radio network.
Welcome back to the program. Well, as usual, the topics are up to you. And I've been asked why no attention given to some of the big things happening in rugby these days. Okay, they didn't make specific mention as to what they're talking about, but I assume it's like, for instance, the Women's World Cup is on. It's in England. And so Canada got off to a great start, played against Fiji, and they're generally pretty tough competition, certainly on the men's side, and Canada handled them, absolutely smoked them. 65-7, I think, was the final score. That was in York. And one of the Canadian players, a lady named Julia Schell, she scored 6 tries for Canada. So obviously the woman of the match on that front. So we beat Fiji this weekend in the second round. We've got Wales. Wales came up short against Scotland, lost 38-8. So maybe we've got a good shot at Wales as well. There's actually plenty of rumbles around the Women's World Cup about just how good Canada may indeed be. I watched a bit of the Fiji game. Terrific performance. But then you've got the notables, right? New Zealand and South Africa and Australia and England and France and Ireland. But Canada seems in there with a bit of a shot anyway. So someone asked me why I wasn't talking about it. I guess they're maybe talking about it. Plus, on the men's side, we're involved in the Pacific Nations Cup. Canada just announced the roster today. They got a game coming up against Japan this weekend. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be televised. I know the Women's World Cup is. So, yeah, plenty of stuff happening on that particular front. Just in the form of a PSA-ish. And it was just last week was the birth date of Captain Bob Bartlett, a famous explorer. So the schooner, the Little Morrissey, his schooner, hasn't been to Brigus in 35 years, but it's coming back. So here's just a little snippet coming from the community. Bob Bartlett won international renown as the greatest ice master for numerous Arctic voyages, from taking Robert Peary to the North Pole in 1909, and of course walking 700 miles over the Arctic ice to find a rescue ship for the crew of the then lost Carlick in 1914. From 1925 to 1946, he owned the Grand Bank fishing schooner, the Effie Morrissey, and went 20 years sailing the Eastern Arctic. After his death, the ship had another career as a sailing packet between Cape Verde and the Atlantic seaboard. The Morrissey last visited Brigus 35 years ago, recently underwent a $6 million rebuild, and is now a vessel in the Massachusetts Maritime Academy fleet, as well as the official schooner of Massachusetts. So it's a beautiful vessel if you've ever seen it. Important to both Canadian and American nautical history. It's going to be in Brigus, landing sometime late on the 11th of September. It's going to remain in the community until the 14th of September. So I know that's going to be of interest to people listening to this program. And if you've never seen pictures of the Little Morrissey, absolutely brilliant, especially when you look at the aftermath of a $6 million rebuild. And so it's going to be sailing into Brigus Harbour on the 11th of September. I thought that was interesting enough to put it out there for you anyway. All right, as she was shaking on the Twitter box before we get going, seem to be getting some positive reaction to the possibility or the potential to organize a significant swath of a show. Not, of course, your calls on the Upper Churchill issue, absolutely most welcome, is maybe just to see if we can't get some of the primaries in the studio with me. So whether that be, and I mentioned Jennifer Williams, of course, the CEO at Hydro, one of the negotiating individuals representing the province, whether it be Carl Smith, who was also on that team. And, we'll try to find who might be the best voices to ask questions as they are. And some of them, calling it one of the most biggest financial sidesteps or mistakes in the province's history, And again, just to get information out there, I don't need it to be some sort of heated spectacle for their own personal benefit. I'm only interested in getting information to you. Okay, final word of the morning goes to Chris on one. Chris, you're on the air.
Morning, Patty. How are you today?
Doing grand. How about you?
Well, Patty, I decided on giving you a call about that new deal with info with Quebec. Now, I don't have nothing against the people of Quebec. I think they're great people, but I think they have to pay back Newfoundland and Labrador some of the money that they accumulated from the very first deal. Do you know how much money Quebec has gotten and Newfoundland has gotten? What are the numbers? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, it's around $25 billion. Quebec, around $2 billion us.
Okay, well, before that deal is signed, they have to pay us something because we're in debt up to a yin-yang. It's that bad, Patty, that people that have pets have to give up their pets because they can't afford to feed them. Now, I'm getting this information from abroad, okay, from a very good source. Plus, another thing about this project, all hands, if you're out there listening, I'm sure there's lots of them out there today, Patty. We have to put a clause in there that we can opt out of this clause if the electricity goes skyrocket, okay, in the future, and we're not getting what we deserved. Well, we have to put a clause in this before we sign off that we can opt out of this clause within 12 months if it's not adaptable to our liking.
Yeah, I suppose, as opposed to opt out, even if there was something there that said, based on price, elasticity, price increase, the potential for it, is that we would guarantee percentage of the increase. Just something so that we have, covered those bases and, check those boxes. I get that. Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because this is not for us, Patty. This is for the future. So there's no politician in the world should sign away the upcoming generations like what happened before. We have to learn, and learn fast, Patty. That's all I have to say today, and have a good day, Patty.
Same to you, buddy. All the best.
All the best.
All right, bye-bye. Yeah, I'll try to set that up. Why not? And I guess we're probably going to have to try to set that up sooner than later. given the fact that if politicians are calling this the Upper Churchill election, then to best arm myself and you with the level of information we need to make an informed opinion, then let's see if we can pull that off. It might be tricky to do it, given people's schedules and whether or not they even want to do it. But we'll give it our best shot. All right, I'm off tomorrow, so I'm not sure who's sitting in for me, but we will indeed pick up this conversation again tomorrow morning, right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. On behalf of the producer, Beth Fagan, I'm your host, Paddy Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy day. Talk in the morning. Bye-bye.